the Eucharist is at the core of our mission. So it's the Eucharist is from which we carry out our baptismal call to holiness and mission. First we have to evangelize. First we have to proclaim the kerygma, the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And only when people come to a personal encounter with Christ, to have that personal relationship, are they now ready to understand what the church teaches and believes and all the other tenets and everything. It's that rootedness in an intimate personal relationship with Christ that's going to set our church and through our church the world on fire. Each and every one of us is loved by God, and that we all together are one family of God.
We have Archbishop Charles Thompson from the Archdiocese of Indianapolis with us today. Your Excellency, as the chair of the Committee on Evangelization and Catechesis, do you think the Eucharistic revival has given new zest to evangelization here in the United States?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be a great gift going forward. We may not see all the fruits of that, really, really quickly. We'll see some early fruits like the low-hanging fruit, but there will be fruit born of this for years, I think, for decades. And as Bishop Cousins has said off and on, it's been 83 years since we did this. We don't want to wait 83 more years. Because the Eucharist is at the core of our mission. So it's the Eucharist is from which we carry out our baptismal call to holiness and mission. This is where we're fueled. I mention sometimes to the young people, we have the Indianapolis 500 here. And I go out and do the invocation, then I get to stay for part of the race, and I watch these cars zoom around the track. But they have to come into the pits. They have to come into the pit stop to be fueled. If they don't get fueled sufficiently, they can't make it to the finish line. And so for us, we need that fuel. The Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, is what nourishes us, sustains us, fuels us. The other thing I would just share: several years ago, Pope Francis asked the U.S. bishops to come together for a retreat. And he sent over his own preacher of the papal household, then Father Cantalamessa, who's now a cardinal. And I remember he said to us as bishops, which is really for the whole church, and he said, your two primary tasks, to your question, is to evangelize and to catechize. And he said, sometimes we forget and get those backwards. We think if we catechize, if we teach people the faith, they'll be believers. And he said, it's got to be the other way around. First we have to evangelize. First we have to proclaim the kerygma, the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And only when people come to a personal encounter with Christ, to have that personal relationship, are they now ready to understand what the church teaches and believes and all the other tenets and everything else. So the Eucharist is having that, not just to know about Jesus, but as we began last night with prayer, to come to know him and deepen that intimate personal relationship, because it's that rootedness in an intimate personal relationship with Christ that's going to set our church and through our church the world on fire with that power of the grace working through the body and blood, soul, and divinity of Christ in the Eucharist, and through us as Eucharistic people to the world. Mm-hmm. And probably the final thing I'll say is Cardinal Pierre, the Apostolic Nuncio, the representative of the Pope to the United States, last night mentioned to us, we have to be ready to listen to Holy Spirit. And even when it brings us out of our comfort zones, that we have to be willing to go out of our comfort zones if we're going to truly listen to Holy Spirit, if we're going to truly take that message of Christ to the world and truly not only allow our lives to be transformed, but the lives of others. But first it has to begin with us. So I think this Eucharistic revival in Congress is going to have that kind of effect. But it's going to take time to see that bear the fullness of its fruit.
Your Excellency, you have seen and experienced the Eucharistic revival plans up close being here. Can you share with us what do you think would be the impact on people here and across the world too?
Yeah, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of people behind the scenes preparing here, nationally, locally, and from all different levels, different perspectives. I can't imagine you having this, any part of the experience doesn't leave us untouched. You know, we teach and believe that every time we experience the Lord, especially at Mass, but also in adoration, what have you, that we're transformed. We never leave the way we came. But it's important to remember this, that the Mass is not a thing. The Eucharist, the host is not a thing. The Mass is an event. We enter into the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and that Eucharist is a person. the person of Jesus Christ. So in any aspect of this, whether as a pilgrim or just being a volunteer here or coordinating something along the way, security or how the layout of the city, whatever it is, I can't imagine that anyone experiencing this, if they take that to heart, that we're encountering an event and we're encountering a person, and especially being the second person, Holy Trinity, the Son of God, how can we not be transformed? How can we not be affected by that and become better people as we draw ever closer to Christ and allow that Spirit to transform us and through us transform others?
Your Excellency, these days, the entire Indianapolis has become an enormous Eucharistic adoration chapel with over 50,000 people adoring our Eucharistic Lord. How does that feel?
Well, that's a nice way to put it. We talk about St. John's Church, which is a beautiful church across from the Convention Center, being the Eucharistic chapel for the week. And as you just put it, we're really become the Eucharistic chapel citywide, if not statewide and beyond. And that's what the Eucharist is supposed to be. It's not about navel gazing. It's not about turning in. But as Pope Francis says, we have to open wide our doors. And as U.S. Bishop say, open wide our doors. We have to go out. We have to be missionary. The church by nature is missionary, and each one of us by our baptism is called to be missionary disciples. And so I like that idea of the broadening of what it means to be a Eucharistic chapel, that we're all called, we carry Christ. We carry Christ in our bodies, in our hearts, our souls, in our minds, and that we take that out to the rest of the world. So that's what it's all about, not keeping Christ in, but going forth that all the world knows the joy of what it means to be saved and to know the love of God, that each and every one of us is loved by God and that we all together are one family of God. We are pilgrim people together.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for giving us the time to ask you questions and to share your insights with our people watching as viewers on Shalom World News.
Thank you very much. It's an honor, and we're so happy that everyone's here. Thank you.